All right, it is 8 o'clock. This is the Redevelopment Authority. It is Wednesday, June 5th, 2024, and we're in City Hall Council Chambers. Before we start, I'd like to welcome Pete and LaDonna to our committee. Be a welcome along to the committee. You guys want to say anything? LaDonna, you've been here a couple meetings, but
still want me
Pete,
to say something?
You want to introduce yourself a little bit? Talk about yourself.
I'm Pete Koblitz. I'm employed at Crossbridge Community Bank, and I'm currently on the Community Development Committee, and that's it. I'm glad to be on this one.
Thank you, and welcome aboard. Next, we have consider approving the minutes of the previous meeting, which was March 6, 2024.
I so move. I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the March 6, 2024 meeting. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have public comment period. Public comment. Hearing none, we'll move on to general items for consideration. Financial report update. Finance Director Lee.
Okay, we've got the April financial report in the packet. There's nothing terribly exciting going on, just some audit expenses and some state certification. I think next month you'll start seeing some of the project expenses coming in, so it'll be a little bit more to look at. Are there any questions?
What is the TSI powerhouse on TID number 3, the first page, special services?
TID number 3, special services.
Oh, okay.
On the first page.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what that is?
Is that the final payment for their incentive?
That sounds right.
Says lot 1.
I'll verify that.
Okay.
We paid it over, I think, 4 years.
If I heard you right, Rod, that's the final payment you said?
I do believe it is, but
I'm
we'll...
going to double check on that.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Shocker, I know. Is there any value to having some type of a total for the TIDs at the bottom of this report that shows all the income, the revenues versus the expenditures, or is that kind of irrelevant in this realm?
I wouldn't say irrelevant. I will say that it's a snapshot in time, so it's not really the whole story. Because we don't have all of our tax revenues in yet. We obviously don't have all of our projects expenses in yet. And it doesn't show any of the fund balance. But let me think about how we could show a bigger picture report for you. I'm happy to look, see if there's something we can do.
Okay, and then this report, this does not include any of the expenditures from last year's project. They're not reflected in here,
Correct.
and that's part of what you're saying as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess, is that something you'd like to see quarterly? I mean, we just went over the TIDs at Ellers did that a couple of weeks ago, or
Right,
a month and a half ago, I guess it was.
Yeah, I don't know, or maybe just a year to year, if you did it quarterly and did this year's first quarter compared to last year's first quarter or something like that, or I don't know, it just seems like somehow there should be a way to have a bigger picture summary of what.
After the audit is done, would like to go over those numbers, but even those are going to be old at that time because we're going to have a bunch of, but again, that's, like Emily said, that's a snapshot in time where it'll give us a good feel for where we're at.
Okay.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to consider a revised development agreement between the City of Merrill, Wisconsin and Wendorf Construction LLC for residential development on Spruce Street, TID number 7. Information provided now.
We're hoping to have the development agreement completed. We're still working on the plat, and the plat is dependent on the stormwater, and long story short, we're making progress. Wendorf does own the property, so that was part of our verbal agreement to him. If he bought the property, we would put in the road. Just a few more things to shore up. We had a meeting with REI and Wendorf yesterday. Tom and I sat in on a meeting, and things are progressing. We're not quite ready to finalize the development agreement yet. We're still working on that, so that's the update.
Okay.
Any questions on where we're at there?
Do you have an idea of when?
We're hoping by middle of July to have the plans done. And then the plat usually takes, I want to say, up to 90 days, if I'm correct, Darren and Tom. But we can proceed with some of the other planning and bidding of the project. We'd like to get the sewer and water and gravel in yet this fall, early spring. We talked with 3 contractors, and they said if that was a project that we could get going, that we'd probably save money versus doing it next spring. So we don't have the pavement and concrete to worry about in this cycle. We're going to wait 2 years before we put curb and gutter and pave it. So whatever we can get done up to freeze up would be great. All of our other projects are happening early this year, so I would think by, I won't say 1st of July, but it's going to be pretty close where everything that we have going is completed, so it would be a nice fall project.
Is it relevant to have some type of agreement, have this development agreement in place before we begin that work, or?
Yes, as soon as we have the stormwater completed, then the preliminary plat will be done, and we can work off of that with the development agreement. If anything changes, we can put a note in there as far as, we don't foresee anything changing in the plat, but the state has to approve it, and that takes up to 90 days.
Okay.
But he's lived up to his end so far by purchasing the property, and it's taking a while to do some of these other things. He's hoping to maybe have one foundation in yet this year on 10th Street. So,
Rod, are you running into any unusual complications that this is dragging on, or?
Wouldn't say complications. It's just planning properly takes time.
Okay.
There were issues, as far as how the financing and the closing on the property, and we really weren't going to move on anything until they closed, and that's happened. So since our last meeting.
So the environmental 1 and 2 have been completed?
Yes, they have, and we have an archaeological study, and then the stormwater study also that takes time, and we're at the mercy of the DNR and the Archaeological Society. So it's.
Now the 1 and 2, are these normally done on residential developments now, or is this just because of that one with its location, or?
I think with it being associated with the paper mill,
Okay.
and over the years, the bank that financed the buyer wanted to make sure that there was something on there. Any other questions on this one?
Hearing none, thank you, Rod. Appreciate the update on that. Number 3 is housing and development update. City Administrator Reiki.
We're looking at 3 homes on Johnson Street. 2 of them have already been, well, I won't say, one has started, the other one there's a permit pulled on, and the third lot there he's going to be building on yet this year. So all of the 8 homes on Johnson Street will be completed this year. There's one on 10th Street between Poplar and Spruce that has started. That's Joe Shufflebine. They got a pretty good start on that one. There are 2 on Ellen Court that will be started probably the first week of July, and that is Jim Jaworski and Travis Carlson will be doing those. There's one on Riverside Ave that was a site of a home that burned probably 3-4 years ago. And then Kelly Burnett is building one on Cleveland Street next to the old VFW there. So 8 homes, 1st of June, that's a pretty good start. Hopefully we can pick up a few more. over the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years, we've had more homes built that I can remember in a long time, so it's good to see.
Right up there on Johnson Street, there was some talk about additional property. Due to grade problems, is that feasible?
Well, I think we've talked about this internally, and I think we've talked about it here. We'd like to try to maximize the lots that we already have infrastructure on, be it, the Nicholas subdivision, our infrastructure's in there. We would encourage building there before having to stick a bunch of money into new infrastructure. We have committed already to the Wendorf development, which, will produce probably
Because of there
20
are
lots.
grade problems up there off of Johnson Street,
Correct.
correct? But it's possibly feasible to do something?
It is, but it's going to take a lot of earthwork.
Okay.
And I guess at this point, I think we should explore a couple of different options. We're looking at one out towards the airport where we could possibly get 12 homes in on the north end of Adams Street, between Adams and Taylor there. We own 7 acres that we're exploring. So I think there are better areas than that as far as the most bang for our buck.
Okay. So you're basically saying it really isn't that feasible to...
Correct, and the reason we went after those 8 lots is because we had,
Right.
the street in and the infrastructure in, so. Any questions on where we are at with housing? I guess if Swiderski development is progressing on schedule, I think they have the townhomes on the west end, on the south side of Webster Street. They have a pretty good start on those. And I think Darren said they were on 2 duplexes now. They haven't started the 220 unit yet. They have to finish up some stormwater work before they can build in that area. It's underwater right now. But they're progressing. The north side, have you issued occupancy yet on those?
On the north side?
Yeah.
I don't do them
Okay.
because they're commercial.
Okay.
But they're very full.
Yeah.
I heard there is people moving in July.
Okay.
In July. So. Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you, Rod. Next, we have city-owned property update.
The one we'd like to emphasize is the old Merrillview Motel. We had torn down the home that was there since the last meeting, well, over the last month. We're going to clean that site up a little bit more as soon as he finishes backfilling, and then we would like to put it out for an RFP. We've had a couple different people express interest in it for anything from maybe a 4 or 6 unit apartment to possible retail. So we will put that out for an RFP and see what we get back. I guess if anybody has any questions or thoughts on that, contrary to kind of what we were planning. We've had all kinds of comments. We're putting a roundabout in there and some other stuff. So that's our plan, is to just clean that up. And there were a few people that had said, "Oh, I'd like to buy it still standing and fix it up." I think we're going to get the most tax base for our dollar by doing it this way. We bought it back from the county, I think, for $20-some thousand. So I think it was a wise investment at that time. It was tax delinquent property.
Is that something that's handled through TITS, the money that you utilize for that, or?
I think it was funded through the TID. I'd have to look back. That was before you got here, Emily, but we can check on that. It would be a TID-funded expenditure eligible, I would think. Blighted area.
Okay. Anything else for Rod on that?
Rod, do you have any updates that you can share regarding the property out by the old Walmart, that front lot that we had kind of tenuously put on a hold while other people
Thank
were
you
looking
for bringing that up.
to
We
it?
do have some additional information there. We're working with the Bradford Group, and in their original proposal, they had taken out 180-day, if you want to call it, option on it. And that has since passed, and we extended another 180 days. They have two retailers that, one is a fast food type, beverage type restaurant, and they're looking for a tenant for the other one. They have some pretty good leads, so it would be a kind of a dual 2-unit, possibly both restaurant related. And that's what we expressed to them that we wanted. We've seen progress on it, so we exercised that extension.
Okay, and that takes us, where's the 180 days take us to?
Probably into October, November, somewhere in there.
Okay.
They have quite a bit of work in on it, so, and they've showed us the plans, and
Right.
it's progressing, so. And then,
Yep,
go
I
ahead.
just want to interject that I'm very happy with where we are in this process, because for so long, we sat on that property with nothing. Now we have some interest, so I'm very happy with that.
Okay.
So this is more than just a dream at this point. You're saying this is,
Correct.
Okay.
They're working up estimates and rental agreements with the tenants, and they've showed us progress, put it that way. On the Anson Gilkey property, we are still waiting to hear back from the DNR. We were going to do a new phase 1 and 2 on there, and the DNR we applied for a grant. We were working with Cedar Corp on that one, and we still haven't heard back. Cedar Corp sent us a proposal to do it without the grant, and I think Steve and I, with your consent, we would like to wait to make sure that we
Get the
don't,
grant.
either get the grant or don't get the grant, to get a final say on that before we move on.
So did you already have the phase 1 and 2
No,
done?
we did not.
Prior out there?
Yeah, but that was
12 years ago, I think.
2010, 12, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And they'd like it to be updated within 5 years, window-wise, especially with the contamination to the west of that property.
Okay.
So we would like to wait until we get a determination from the DNR on the grant.
how about the Page Milk? Anything new there, or?
Tom, can you speak to that one, as far as where we are with the federal tax lien?
Yeah, well, they're just. There is a federal tax lien, and our federal government is a little tougher to deal with than others. It is there, it is substantial, and I'd recommend we do nothing at this time. It is not expired.
We have probably another 2 years on that.
At least 2 or 3 years before that would be good.
For us non-Merrill natives, exactly where is this page?
Equipment.
Yep. Stuyvesant Street.
Not far from the Anson Gilkey to the east.
Where you come off the Riverbend Trail, down on Logan Ave there, it's right on the east side.
Okay.
Holding pattern is the way to look at that
Okay.
one. It's just a matter of-
So Tom, you're saying it's a good 2 or 3 years?
Yes, before we.
Hopefully.
Yeah, before we. Yeah.
All right.
Merrill
Be
Equipment.
fine with that.
Merrill Equipment is using that lot for storage, so I mean, it's. Any other questions on city-owned property?
Hearing none, we'll move on to logging on Highway G property discussion and consideration.
We have that property listed through Pfefferly right now, and we have it listed as the whole 66 acres. We would like to try to find someone to log that off in exchange for, taking the stumps and the tops and basically clearing the whole site. If we could work out a deal where it's for the cost of the wood that they would do the work, I think it would be to our advantage to get that site more shovel-ready and it'd be more attractive if it was flat and level. So I guess I'm looking for a motion to explore that possibility and bring it back for consideration as far as either putting it out for a bid or trying to find someone to do the work.
I would so move.
I will second that.
I have a motion and a second to put out for bids logging on Highway G property. Any further discussion?
Just a question. So he's, in his, what Rod had said was explore the possibility. Do you want to move, you want the motion to explore, or do you want the motion to find a bid? All I want to ask.
I guess it would be to possibly put it out for RFP. I'll talk to see what kind of interest, if I can find someone that would even be interested in doing it, so it wouldn't cost us anything.
So the best option.
Yeah, and if I could find that, we wouldn't have to necessarily put it out for bids because it's under 25,000, if we can keep it.
Well, Rod, seeing
there-
that that's industrial, well, it will be industrial, there's no reason we shouldn't remove those trees, is there?
Correct, and even at Red Pine Plantation, like the stuff that Wendorf is going to be building, it's nice to have trees there, but as soon as you start removing a few trees and opening some of that up to wind, if it was something else, I think you'd have some storm damage once you open that stuff up. So I think it would be in our best interest to clear that area and keep it mowed off, make it more, again, attractive, shovel-ready. There are a couple pockets of wetland back in there which can be utilized in the right setting for, as far as edge of a parking lot, or you can build around those, so it's not like it's going to exclude that area from being developed, but
Can they be used for stormwater retention, or is that not?
secondary, but not the primary. So that is an option, and what can be done also, if it's just a small pocket, that can be mitigated where you can dig it up and fill it in and create something like a 2-for-1. So there are options there, but I think not that we're not having interest in it, because there have been several contacts with Pfefferly about it, but I think driving down the highway, if you saw a leveled area that was ready for development, would be more attractive.
I haven't been traveling 51 there, but is there any signage on 51?
There is signage on, it's a little bit more on the north end of the property, but it's the only area that's open up there. There's a sign.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second to explore the option of logging and leveling the property on Highway G. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Date and time of next meeting is tentatively July 3rd, but I think we'll just make it the call of the chair, since that is the week of the 4th there, so.
The 10th? Or no? No, I'm sorry.
Why don't we just wait, and we're hoping to have that plat in July sometime, so it may be later in the month as far as that next meeting.
Right, we'll just make it, like I said, call the chair. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.